Your sales decline.
Well, peer-to-peer marketplace for elderly and disability care services, Better Caring, has closed a $3 million funding round, which will help it take advantage of regulatory changes in the space to help give people with a disability more control over their finances. The company, founded in 2014 by former Bankers Trust partner Peter Scott and former investment banker Tony Chirara, who thought the business models in the sector were broken. Well, for more on Better Caring, CEO Peter Scott joins us now live from our Sydney CBD studio. Peter, really appreciate your time this afternoon. Look, a quick little brief introduction about the company there, but just tell us a bit about Better Caring.
Yeah, no, a pleasure. Better Caring is an online marketplace that connects people who need care and support in their life to remain living independently at home. So whether you're ageing or you have a disability, you can connect directly with local care and support workers and engage the person or people that are right for you in your life.
How did it come about?
Look, it really stems from my own family experiences caring for my mum and dad. So my dad was in his early 90s and very frail. Mum was in her mid-80s with dementia. They were living in country New South Wales, and they had some limited support from a government-funded service. But my father used to always complain about the number of different support workers that were coming through the house each day, and he found that very confronting and would rather, deny services rather than have these strangers coming into the house. And it made me think that we could deliver a solution that was much better for people like my parents and also for workers in the sector.
And how has that solution been received by the industry? Because you're connecting aged care and disability support workers with those that are actually requiring those services.
Yeah, look, it's a big change for the sector. I mean, the sector's going through reform. The government's introduced a series of reforms in aged care and disability sector where they're giving people individualised funding and allowing them to make choices that are important in their life. So that's a big change. Our disruption is really responding to that and providing real choice and efficiency and transparency for consumers and workers. And we're really challenging, I guess, the status quo or the previous industry model. We have about 1 million Australians that are probably receiving care and support in the home because they're ageing. We have about 500,000 people being funded with the National Disability Insurance Scheme. So that's 1.5 million people that live in homes and communities all over Australia, serviced by hundreds of thousands of people. And the current market structure is putting large organisations in between people. And we really think a much better solution is to connect people in local communities, people that need help and people that can offer help. And by doing that, a lot of the overhead in the sector we can share between consumers and workers and ensure everyone's better off and really establish relationships that work for both consumers and workers.
So you see the current regulatory environment and proposed changes as being generally a positive for Better Caring?
Yeah, I would say it's a huge positive. It's really about giving people individual funding and allowing them to make choices. So you're turning people that were fairly passive recipients of services into active consumers, and they're able to purchase things that offer them the right value and the right outcomes. And Better Caring, I think, is offering a huge proposition to people. Not only can you choose people that are right for you, you continue working with people that you feel happy having in your own home and supporting you, but in many cases, the same amount of funding can probably buy you, 50% or in some cases double the amount of services from the same funding because of the low overhead model.
And in terms of the $3 million funding that's just closed, what does that money go towards? And how significant is the timing around the regulatory landscape?
Yeah, the funding's going to allow us to sort of rapidly scale the business, and it's timed perfectly for a lot of the regulatory changes. So the NDIS, the National Disability Insurance Scheme, started rolling out in full from the 1st of July this year. So it's rolling out in areas across New South Wales, Victoria, most of the other states. And also there's a big change to home care packages that occur next year. From February 27th next year, the funding attaches to the individual, not the provider. So if you have a home care package from February next year, you can move it to a provider that offers you better value. And providers that are working with innovative solutions like Better Caring are going to offer you a whole lot more for your money.
And what sort of take-up have you had from, particularly on the worker side of the offer?
Yeah, look, I think it's a really interesting proposition from workers. It's well documented within the sector that there's a lot of low morale, that workers have tended to feel undervalued and underpaid and often not given responsibility. We're offering workers the chance to run their own small business via Better Caring, take responsibility for what they're doing and for their clients, and people rise to that challenge. So I think it's impacting the attitudes and motivations of the workers in the sector. We've had about 7,000 or 8,000 workers sign up to the website. We've approved about 1,000 workers. They've met our requirements for police checks, working with children checks, reference checks, etc. So that's a growing community of workers. But more importantly, we're opening up this sector to people that, you know, live in communities and they're quite empathetic and would love to support people locally. They're not necessarily interested in doing that working for a big provider and being rostered around households, but they will actually set up a profile on Better Caring and work for people locally. And that includes people, you know, it could be mums or dads working while their kids are at school, it could be people that have recently retired, uni students, people re-entering the workforce. So suddenly this becomes an attractive and flexible work proposition. And, you know, it's in a sector that has significant growth. Our ageing population is growing enormously, and people will need support to continue living in their own home, which is their preference.
You touched on an interesting aspect, and I imagine is kind of crucial, if you like, to the long-term success of the business, and that's the people that you have signed up. So how do you go about vetting, if you like, applicants?
Yeah, so we have a lot of checks and balances as we approve workers, and these are fairly industry standards. So everyone working on Better Caring needs a police check. We'll need to do reference checks. We collect work history. We do working with children checks. If they're offering nursing services, we check their nursing registration. So there's a whole bunch of checks that have to happen before somebody can be approved on the platform. But ultimately, you know, quality of workers is really important to us, but we're shifting from a regulated environment where quality was, you know, regulated by the government. It was about complying with government standards and mandatory training. Now we're moving to an environment where the consumer can judge quality, and that's very powerful because often for consumers, you know, what's more important to them is the individual attitudes and motivations, values of a worker as much as their training and skill. And we're giving workers the chance, we're giving consumers the chance to, you know, choose workers that are right for them. They continue working with those that they like. They can terminate the relationship with others that aren't a good fit. But then, like all of these online marketplaces, we have a transparent feedback loop, so consumers can rate their experience with workers, they can review them, and that feedback loop is an incredibly powerful layer of accountability and celebrates really great care, and I think it's going to lead to a real improvement in quality.
Fantastic. Peter Scott, appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.
My pleasure.